September 8, 2004, should have been a day of celebration. Jay Orbin, a man who seemed to have it all: wealth, success, a beautiful family, and a thriving business, was turning 45. Phoenix, Arizona, was the backdrop to his seemingly perfect life. His elegant home, filled with laughter and luxury, was where his wife, Marjorie, and their 8-year-old son, Noah, lived. On the surface, everything looked flawless, but sometimes perfection hides the darkest secrets. Jay was no ordinary man. He had built a multi-state business dealing in high-end art and jewelry, traveling constantly to manage his empire. Despite the long hours and frequent trips, he made time for his family. He adored Marjorie, the woman he had fallen 4 years ago in Las Vegas, and cherished every moment with Noah. That morning, he spoke to his mother, Joan, sharing a few laughs, and promising to call her later to celebrate his birthday. Little did anyone know that call would never come. Marjorie Orbin had always been a woman of striking charm, ambition, and, some might say, danger lurking beneath her beauty. She had first crossed paths with Jay in Las Vegas when she was a dancer. At a strip club, Jay, captivated by her presence, quickly fell in love. Their courtship was intense and passionate, with Jay showering her with attention, asking her out, and dreaming of a life together. But Marjorie was no ordinary woman either. Fame, money, and admiration were her true desires, far beyond Jay's modest beginnings. She wanted the world at her feet, and initially, Jay could not provide it. Their love story took a turbulent turn. Marjorie left Jay for a wealthy millionaire in Florida, a man who promised her everything she ever wanted: engagements, luxurious trips, and endless possibilities tempted her. Yet that relationship failed, leaving Marjorie disillusioned, married and divorced multiple times, before returning to Las Vegas. By the time Jay found her again, he had grown successful and persistent, and she, intrigued by his steady devotion, allowed herself to be swept back into his life. Their love rekindled, leading to marriage, and finally, the long-awaited birth of Noah. For a while, life seemed idyllic, but appearances can deceive. Marjorie's past was never far behind. Despite living together as husband and wife, she had divorced Jay years earlier for tax reasons, a detail that would later raise eyebrows. Even during their marriage, she had affairs and continued to pursue her desires with little regard for consequences. By September 2004, Jay was about to learn the horrifying truth about the woman he loved. After Noah's 8th birthday celebration on August 26th, Jay left for a business trip to Florida, only to return early due to Hurricane Francis. His mother, Joan, called him to wish him a happy birthday on September 8th, expecting the same warmth and laughter that had always defined their relationship. Jay's voice over the phone promised a call later that night, but it never came. Days passed. Joan tried contacting him repeatedly, but Marjorie's reassurances that everything was fine only heightened her suspicion. Jay, a man who never missed a call to his mother, had vanished. Worse, Marjorie's behavior was anything but that of a worried wife. She seemed unusually calm, almost carefree. While Jay's mother grew frantic, she spent lavishly from his accounts, bought extravagant items, and even moved her new lover, Larry Weisberg, into their home. By then, investigators had begun to suspect that this disappearance was no accident. What started as a celebration of life was quickly spiraling into a nightmare. A man who had everything, love, wealth, and family, was missing, and the woman who shared his home acted as though nothing had changed. The stage was set for one of the most chilling betrayals in Arizona's history. A story that would shock a nation and reveal the dark lengths one could go for greed and desire. The days following Jay Orbin's last phone call were filled with an unsettling quiet. Phoenix, a city accustomed to the hum of life, suddenly seemed colder, emptier, as if it too sensed the looming darkness. Jay's mother, Joan, could not shake the growing sense of dread. She had known her son for 45 years. He was reliable, punctual, and loving. He never missed calls, especially not on his birthday. Something was terribly wrong. Initially, Marjorie's calm demeanor seemed to ease the worries of friends and family. She assured them that Jay was simply busy with work, perhaps delayed by business emergencies. But her words did not match her actions. While Jay remained unreachable, Marjorie began to spend money with an unusual abandon. Expensive toys for Noah, a grand piano, lavish gifts for herself, all purchased from Jay's accounts, as if trying to rewrite reality to suit her desires. Every purchase was a silent scream. Something had changed in her. A week passed, then two. Joan's anxiety turned into fear. She called relatives, gathered the family, and demanded they act. They unanimously agreed. This was no ordinary absence. Jay needed to be found, and law enforcement had to be involved. Confronted, Marjorie reluctantly filed a missing person report. But even in this moment of supposed concern, she offered incomplete information, delaying the investigation. Her evasiveness raised suspicions and only deepened the detectives' resolve. Investigators quickly discovered the layers of complexity hidden beneath the Orbin household's facade. Jay and Marjorie had divorced years earlier for financial reasons, yet they continued to live together. Marjorie's affairs were no secret to those closest to the couple, and one man, Larry Weisberg, had moved into the house. He was no visitor. Belongings filled the closet of the very man who had vanished. The detectives took note. Marjorie's behavior was inconsistent with grief or concern. She wasn't searching for Jay. She was living freely, indulging in luxuries that had once been his, and flaunting her new romance in the heart of his home. By September 22nd, the investigation had begun in earnest. Jay was officially listed as missing, and detectives were peeling back layers of deceit, greed, and betrayal. They scrutinized the credit card records, purchases, phone calls, and CCTV footage. The pattern was clear. Marjorie was unusually calm, financially opportunistic, and deeply involved in actions that questioned her innocence. Then, the desert revealed its dark secret. On October 23rd, a homeless man wandering near the outskirts of Phoenix stumbled upon a black plastic container. Inside lay a horrifying Cetor human body, decomposed, frozen at some point, and methodically cut into pieces. A bullet missing. Organs and a chilling attention to detail signaled not a crime of passion, but a meticulously planned murder. DNA testing confirmed what investigators had feared. It was Jay Orbin. The realization sent shockwaves through the city. The man who had seemingly had it all: wealth, love, family, had met a violent, gruesome end. And all evidence pointed to the one person who had everything to gain: Marjorie. Even before the body was found, investigators noted her lack of participation in the search. She did not express grief, did not attend search efforts, and seemed more concerned with her personal pleasures. When authorities later searched the Orbin home, Jay's credit cards and checkbooks were left behind, items he would never have forgotten during a business trip. His disappearance, combined with her suspicious behavior, painted a chilling portrait. this was not a disappearance. This was murder. The chilling truth of Chapter 2 is that sometimes the people closest to us harbor secrets dark enough to destroy lives. The perfect life Jay Orbin had built was being dismantled, piece by piece, by the very woman who promised to love him forever. Asterisk. The discovery of Jay Orbin's body sent a shiver through Phoenix. Police were confronted with a crime so calculated, so chillingly methodical, that it seemed almost unreal. The body had been frozen, then thawed, cut into pieces with a saw, and some parts were missing entirely. The organs were removed, leaving investigators stunned by the cold precision of the act. This was no crime of passion, it was premeditated, cold-blooded, and meticulous. All eyes turned to Marjorie. Her behavior had been increasingly suspicious even before the body was found. She had spent lavishly from Jay's accounts, indulged in luxury items, and openly welcomed her lover into the family home. Every move she made seemed to signal not grief or concern, but the enjoyment of a life unburdened by her husband's presence. Police scrutinized her every action, every purchase, every call. Receipts showed purchases of trash bags, mops, cleaning, supplies, the tools of someone trying to erase evidence. The detectives pieced together a horrifying picture. On September 8th, the day of Jay's birthday and the day he returned from his Florida trip, Marjorie was waiting. Investigators believe she lured him into the garage of their home, confronted him, and shot him in cold blood. Jay, unsuspecting and trusting, never stood a chance. Once the act was done, the methodical nature of the crime continued. Jay's body was frozen, then thawed for easier dismemberment. Hands, feet, and the head were removed and spread across separate containers, hidden in different locations. Evidence suggested she meticulously planned each step, using her knowledge of Jay's routines and household to cover her tracks. Every detail, every purchase, every movement reinforced the image of a woman determined to eliminate the man standing between her and her desires. Meanwhile, Marjorie's lover, Larry Weisberg, appeared at first to be a possible accomplice. He moved into the Orbin home, gaining access to the garage with a remote control, and his tools matched those used in the dismemberment. But investigators found he had a solid alibi, and there was no proof he was involved in the actual killing. It became clear that while Larry's presence complicated the story, the mastermind was Marjorie herself. The investigation also revealed the disturbing ease with which she embraced Jay's wealth. She withdrew large sums of money, bought expensive items, and immediately claimed the life insurance payout after Jay's disappearance. Each action painted her not as a grieving widow, but as a woman calculating her gain. Friends and family who observed her described her lack of concern, her calm demeanor, and even enjoyment in her newfound freedom. It was a portrait of chilling detachment. As detectives dug deeper, a pattern of deception, manipulation, and betrayal emerged. Marjorie had spent years chasing wealth and admiration, leaving broken relationships in her wake. Jay had believed in her love and loyalty, unaware of the storm brewing behind closed doors. In her mind, greed and desire outweighed love, leaving a trail of destruction that culminated in one of the most calculated murders Arizona had ever seen. By the time the trial approached, Marjorie's actions had set the stage for a courtroom drama filled with shocking revelations. The story of her betrayal, the murder of a devoted husband, and the manipulation of everyone around her would captivate and horrify those who heard it. Chapter 3 closes on this chilling note: the perfect life can hide unimaginable darkness. And sometimes the people we trust the most are capable of unspeakable acts. Asterisk, the courtroom was tense. The story of Jay Orbin's disappearance and gruesome murder had captivated Phoenix, and now the world would hear the details laid bare. Marjorie Orbin, the woman at the center of the nightmare, sat composed, almost eerily calm. Her eyes, however, could not hide the calculating mind behind them. Every gesture, every word, every denial was scrutinized by the jury, the detectives, and the families of those involved. The prosecution began by outlining Marjorie's actions leading up to the disappearance. They detailed her lavish spending from Jay's accounts, the introduction of Larry Weisberg into their home, and her lack of concern for Jay's whereabouts. Receipts were presented for trash bags, mops, cleaning supplies, and containers, all purchased the day after Jay vanished. CCTV footage confirmed she had bought these items, evidence of meticulous preparation. Each detail painted a chilling portrait of premeditation. Investigators revealed the timeline. Jay returned from Florida on his birthday, unaware of the trap awaiting him. The garage, once a place of mundane household activity, had become the scene of a methodical killing. He was shot, frozen, and dismembered with precision. Parts of his body were hidden in containers across different locations. Detectives emphasized that this was not a crime of passion, it was cold, calculated, and deliberate. Marjorie's defense tried to shift suspicion onto Larry. They argued that he could have killed Jay, citing his access to the garage and tools. But Larry had a verified alibi, and there was no proof connecting him to the murder. Even his tools, found at his workplace, could not be definitively linked to the crime. The courtroom watched as the defense attempted to paint Marjorie as an innocent bystander caught in a tragic web of events. Then came the shocking testimony. A former acquaintance of Marjorie claimed that she had previously threatened to kill Jay over money, even describing in chilling detail how she would wrap his body and dispose of it. Marjorie's calm demeanor during these revelations only intensified the horror. The jury could see a woman who had planned, executed, and attempted to profit from one of the most gruesome murders imaginable. The medical examiner testified about the state of Jay's remains. The body had been frozen, thawed, and meticulously cut with tools. Internal organs were missing, and the precise dismemberment suggested experience or careful planning. This evidence, combined with Marjorie's financial activity and lack of concern, left little doubt in the minds of the investigators and the prosecution. As the trial progressed, it became clear that this was a story of greed, betrayal, and cold ambition. Marjorie had carefully orchestrated every step, from the murder to the disposal of the body, to her attempts to cover her tracks. Every lie, every purchase, every action was part of a chilling narrative that exposed her true nature. By the end of Chapter 4, the stage was set for the verdict. The courtroom had seen the evidence, the witnesses had spoken, and the jury had witnessed a woman whose charm hid unimaginable darkness. Jay Orbin's life had been taken, but the truth was slowly emerging, one shocking revelation at a time. The trial had gripped Phoenix like no other. Every day, new details emerged, painting a chilling picture of greed, deceit, and cold-blooded murder. Marjorie Orbin, once seen as a charming, ambitious woman, was now at the center of a horrifying revelation. The jury, investigators, and public alike could hardly believe how one person could orchestrate such a meticulously planned crime. After months of grueling testimony, the jury began deliberations. Evidence was overwhelming. Receipts for cleaning, supplies, trash bags, containers, CCTV footage of Marjorie buying these items, Jay's frozen, dismembered body, and her unusual calm after his disappearance. Friends and family described her behavior as detached, even celebratory, while her lover, Larry Weisberg, moved freely into the Orbin home. The story was dark, methodical, and undeniable. Finally, the verdict was delivered. Guilty on all counts: first-degree murder, theft, and fraud. Marjorie was sentenced to life in prison, plus concurrent sentences for theft and fraud. Gasps and whispers filled the courtroom. For some, it was justice finally served. For others, it was a haunting reminder of the darkness lurking behind charm and beauty. But the story did not end there. During her time in prison, Marjorie gave an interview that sent shockwaves through the true crime community. She claimed that Larry had killed Jay and that she only helped cover it up out of fear and love. According to her, Jay and Larry had argued in the garage, and the shooting happened unexpectedly. She insisted that she never saw her husband's body and had no idea where the remaining parts were. Investigators and the public, however, were not convinced. Her version of events contradicted the evidence collected during the investigation. The receipts, CCTV footage, and her spending patterns all pointed to her as the mastermind. Larry had an alibi, and there was no proof he was involved in the actual killing. Marjorie's claims seemed like a desperate attempt to shift blame and preserve her own narrative. Despite her appeals, all were rejected. She remained in prison, serving her sentence for a crime so meticulously planned it still haunted the community. Jay's son, Noah, was awarded custody to Jay's brother, a reminder of the family torn apart by one woman's ambition and greed. The life that Jay had built, the love he had cherished, and the family he had worked so hard to protect were all left in ruins. Chapter 5 closes on the stark reality: greed and desire can destroy lives, and betrayal can hide behind the most beautiful of smiles. Jay Orbin's murder was a calculated act of ambition and cruelty, leaving a chilling lesson for all who thought they knew the people closest to them. Phoenix slowly returned to its usual rhythm, but the shadow of Jay Orbin's murder lingered. The city, once unaware of the chilling deception hidden behind closed doors, now knew the dark lengths a person could go for greed, desire, and ambition. Marjorie Orbin's life behind bars became a grim reminder of the consequences of cold-blooded betrayal. Jay's family, while grieving, worked tirelessly to protect his legacy and provide a stable life for young Noah, the boy, caught in the storm of his parents' tragedy, was entrusted to his uncle, who offered him love, guidance, and the security Jay had worked so hard to provide. Every detail of Jay's life, his business, his kindness, his devotion to family became a legacy preserved by those who truly cared. Meanwhile, the case of Marjorie Orbin served as a lesson to the public. Friends and acquaintances reflected on her charm and beauty, realizing how deceptive appearances can be. A woman who had once captivated a man with love and affection had allowed greed and ambition to consume her entirely, leaving behind a trail of destruction. Jay's murder was not a moment of passion. It was a carefully executed act of cold calculation. Prison offered Marjorie time to reflect, or at least, that was the hope of those who followed the case. Despite her claims in interviews, shifting blame to her lover, Larry, the truth had been undeniable. She had orchestrated Jay's murder, profited from his wealth, and tried to rewrite the story in her favor. Justice had been served, yet the chilling nature of the crime ensured that it would never be forgotten as the years passed. The story of Jay Orbin and Marjorie Orbin remained a stark reminder of the fragility of trust. Wealth, charm, and love could hide unimaginable darkness. For those who heard the story, it was a cautionary tale. Never assume that appearances reflect reality, and never underestimate the capacity for betrayal in the hearts of those closest to us. Chapter 6 closes on this reflection. A man's perfect life was destroyed by greed and desire, but through perseverance, justice, and the courage of those who refused to turn away, the truth was revealed. Jay Orbin may have been lost, but his story remains a haunting testament to the dangers of blind trust and the power of cold ambition.